Hey y'all, and welcome back. Today's topic revolves around the recently released Pokemon Legends Arceus game, and how this game has changed Pokemon at its core forever. Just one thing before I get into that. If you could hit that subscribe button, that would be amazing, as seeing your support is a huge motivator for me. Now, back to the video. I was thinking about the announcement of Pokemon Legends Arceus, and how, up to release, a large chunk of the game was still shrouded in mystery, and there were a lot of questionables regarding this Breath of the Wild-esque Pokemon game. The game was announced to the world in February of 2021, which was also the 25th anniversary of Pokemon Red and Green. Ah, nostalgia. Anyways, the initial footage of the game, if I may say, was interesting. The lands looked kind of barren. The Pokemon looked kind of stiff and lifeless, and the frame rates at certain points looked, may I say, questionable. Also, I'm not sure if it helped or not, but Legends was announced in the same direct as Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, so people were expecting Sinnoh remakes, but not a game of this magnitude. Pokemon fans were excited, yet confused, and the game had a release of early 2022. So the question was, can Gamefreak finish up development of a game of this scale in only a year's time, when a game like Breath of the Wild took 5+ years to develop? I personally was very surprised that a game like this was finally being put out. It's really been the first big change for the series since the move to 3D, with Pokemon X and Y back in 2013. For a while, news on the game was stagnant, until a Pokemon Direct during August of 2021 was released. We saw the world of Legends grow in this trailer. The landscape is shown off to a larger degree, and the simple characteristics of Jubilife Village have now been expanded onto, creating a more lively view of the town. We're also introduced to Hisuian Growlithe and the ride Pokemon such as Weirdeer, Basculegion, and Braviary. We also got footage of how this isn't your typical Pokemon game. Pokemon are creatures to be feared and conquered. The game looks truly open world. Legends Arceus is shaping up to be the Pokemon game we've never had before. From there on out, we get sprinkles of information, learning about wardens, character customization, the introduction of noble Pokemon. One thing I thought was very cool was how they introduced Hisuian Zorua and Zoroark. Having an adventurer encounter the creatures with very rough footage, describing his encounter until something happens to him. Footage is then restored to show that Zorua and Zoroark are behind the conflict. Hisuian Voltorb is introduced. We meet the Diamond and Pearl clan leaders, along with a very cool 360 view from atop a Weirdeer. Even after all this, it still seems like we know very little about Pokemon Legends Arceus. And then comes release day, January 28th of 2022, and the game is exactly what Pokemon needed. In my opinion, what makes Legends a game changer for the Pokemon series isn't the game's story. That is very light in itself. It basically boils down to quell the frenzied nobles until you get to the end where the story has a little more meat. But what makes this game is the freedom and creativity that the game allows the player. From the moment you step into the Obsidian Fieldlands, you pretty much have free reign over whatever you would like to do next. Battle a bunch of Bidoof? Go ahead. Attempt to fight that Alpha Rapidash? Have a go at it. Want to try and go through the river? Learn very quickly your character cannot swim. I, for one, spent as much time as possible exploring before I was basically forced back to the story in order to get to the next area. And let me tell you, randomly creeping through the woods and then hearing the Eterna Forest theme song, it hits you. You realize this is the Eterna Forest of old, and you just stumbled upon it. I know many people have gripes about the graphics, and they feel a lot of the same assets are reused throughout the different terrains of the Hisui region. But I feel this game accomplished exactly what it set out to in terms of the experience the player has while exploring the various areas. Each section of Hisui have distinct attributes that are a joy to experience, and leave the player wanting to explore as much as possible. The Obsidian Fieldlands, a calm, green, and serene meadow. The Crimson Mirelands, a muddy, vast, and wet swamp. with bits of civilization scattered throughout. The Cobalt Coastland, a cool, breezy, and scenic waterfront. The Coronet Highlands, a rocky, rough terrain that at the middle sprouts Mount Coronet. And finally, the Alabaster Iceland, a vast frozen tundra that at its peak houses the Snow Point Temple. All these areas have landmarks that are recognizable in modern day Sinnoh, and the ability to travel over these lands as I please, catch Pokemon at my own pace, are what makes Legends the franchise-altering experience. This is Sinnoh before it became Sinnoh. The land we're all traversing is mostly devoid of human touch. That is what makes Legends such a thrill. You are the pioneer, the one tasked with completing the first ever Pokédex. This being Gamefreak's first true attempt at an open-world Pokemon game is only scratching the surface of what is possible for this franchise. And with the announcement of the 9th generation being open-world, Pokemon Legends Arceus is a true innovator when it comes to the Pokemon games that we've known for so long. I, for one, am excited to see what's next. If you take one thing away from this video, it's that the Pokemon games are heading in the right direction. Game Freak and the Pokemon Company have realized what Pokemon can be and definitely appear to be taking the steps to get the franchise to the point we all believe it can reach.